Hey, what's going on, guys? So, hey, this has been an awesome week for video games, especially if you're a Switch owner. One thing I wanted to start off with, just unrelated to this video, only because I just saw it as right before I started recording, and that is Limited Run Games is in fact coming out with a physical copy of Scott Pilgrim vs. the World. It'll be on the Switch and the PS4. They also have an awesome collector's edition. For those of you who don't know, this game is really, really, really good. It's a cool beat 'em up. Has great soundtrack by Anna Managuchi. If you have played the recent River City Girls, you will love this game. And the thing is you could not play it. The game was kind of lost. It got pulled from the digital shelf, and that was the only place it was digital. So when people say, oh, download your games, like, this is why. This is the game why, and it's getting a physical copy. I just had to kind of throw that out real quick, but that's not why we're here. We're here today to talk about Monster Hunter Rise. Now, if you don't know, there's a demo on the Nintendo eShop, and I have played a ton of it. In fact, this demo is so popular that it actually crashed the Nintendo eShop. So, without further ado, let's talk about Monster Hunter Rise. So Monster Hunter Rise is really the next game after Monster Hunter World. Now, if you've been playing the Monster Hunter games, World was huge. It was way different. So classically, the Monster Hunter games have been on PSP, and I believe some of them were on the Nintendo handheld systems. So it's very fitting that it's coming to the Switch. But I kind of half dipped my toes into those ones. They're way different than Monster Hunter World, and I'm going to preface this by saying I played a ton of Monster Hunter World. I played hundreds of hours, 300-400 hours, I don't even know. But Monster Hunter World really changed the game. They had a lot of quality of life changes where you had auto crafting and you had a big open area. One thing that I personally was not a fan of with the original Monster Hunters was every time you go to a new area, it's like the map would be broken up into like 18 different zones, and there's a loading screen between each zone. Kind of took you out of the hunt a little bit. And then also, if you're fighting near the edge of a zone and you get hit into another zone, you had a loading screen, and you try to get back and there's a loading screen. But that's just my personal view. But then this game has now come out, and this is like a great kind of halfway point, a good little successor to, in my opinion, Monster Hunter World. So I jumped into the demo. I played quite a bit of the demo. For those of you who don't know, you basically get 30 tries at missions, not including the tutorials, and they have a tutorial for basic gameplay, and they also have a tutorial for this new monster writing feature. So if you played Monster Hunter World, one of the big changes they had was the little slingshot feature, the fact that you could grapple onto things. In this game, it's kind of cool. The world they've built is kind of like Ninja Japan. Everything feels real ninja-y, real quick. And the gameplay really reflects this. So a new item is this kind of like slingshot bug thing. You have two of them. They have a cooldown, two of them by default rather, and they have a cooldown. You can use them to jump around, to dodge, to save yourself if you get knocked back. But you can also use them to attack. Each weapon has its own attack that uses the bug, where basically the bug will launch you forward and you'll do some kind of really cool attack. You can also collect more of these bugs throughout the levels. Now, when I played the demo, I only got 3, but who's to say you can't carry 4 or 5? I'm really not sure. I didn't go out of my way to try that. But some other stuff they've changed, some other additions that I really like are, if you played World or some of the other ones, they had mushrooms and things you could pick. They still have those. But specifically what I'm talking about are these mushrooms that gave you more armor or more attack. Well, they have these new butterflies, and they also have these birds that permanently raise your stats while you're in the world. You'd have to redo it every time you jump back in to a new hunt. But it's kind of cool because it's like really convenient. You don't have to pick it and then eat it. You just walk up and the butterfly dusts its powder on you, or the little bird thing kind of glows and gives you the powers. But the demo is great. It has 2 hunts. You can hunt basically a medium-sized monster and then a large-sized monster. The medium monster is kind of like this weird, I don't know, like, I always think of like the first boss as like a raptor, you know what I mean? And so there's no difference here. The first boss is this kind of like velociraptor type thing with a big spiny tail, kind of like a bladed tail, like a scorpion kinda, but more like a scythe at the end of it. Either way, it's very cool. And the bigger monster is new to me. See, that's the problem with me not playing a lot of Monster Hunters. I don't know what's new and what's not. But this monster's kind of crazy, and it shoots bubbles everywhere. Now, the bubbles have different colors and give you different kind of blights, which are basically the ailments of this game. So it's a very interesting fight. The Null Berry, which gets rid of negative status effects, helps a lot, obviously. But the cool thing is they want to give you a little bit of a chance to try all the weapons, so you have a full set of gear for all of the weapon types, which if you played World, pretty much everything you're looking for is back. They have the great sword, the long sword, just like a katana, sword and shield, dual blades, the hammer, the hunting horn, the lance and shield, of course, the gun lance and shield, the switch axe, the charge blade, the insect glaive, the heavy and light bow gun, and the bow. So all of your favorites make a return here. In Monster Hunter World, I originally played with the switch axe, and I was going to not do that this time. In Monster Hunter World, I basically started with the switch axe, played it for a long time, switched over to the hunting horn to help my friends beat monsters, because I figured you need to have some support. And then once we all kind of got really good and got really good gear, I decided to use the greatsword. So when I started this demo, I started with the greatsword as well. And I made a quick realization. The reason it was so easy for me to switch to the greatsword in Monster Hunter World is I'd already played so much of the game that I basically had a lot of really good gear. And if you know anything about Monster Hunter, being vulnerable sucks. Like, if you need either teammates or a really good strategy or really good gear. So I could basically play the greatsword pretty good because I spec'd out my gear to basically avoid when the monsters yell, I don't get stunned, or when I get hit, maybe I'll have super armor and I can take a hit or so, because the greatsword has a long wind-up time. It has really great DPS, but if you get knocked while you're charging up your sword, well, what are you gonna do? So I started out with a greatsword in this, and I was just getting whooped because, you have this basic armor that does not have any of the buffs that I'm used to. I'm not saying that, a good greatsword player would obviously be doing better than me, but my playstyle was really built around the gear that I was used to. So I need to kind of switch my thinking if I'm going to go back to that. But I will say I did end up picking the switch axe again, mainly because this armor looks sick. My first thought was like, oh man, it's like a Dark Knight or a Dragoon kind of look from like Final Fantasy, and oh man, I was not let down. Now, a cool thing that this game has that's new is, such a great evolution. So if you played Monster Hunter World, they had you had your Palico, which is basically like your little cat friend who hangs out with you and helps you on the mission. They can have gadgets and weapons. They can attack and help you cut monsters and stuff. But then after Iceborne, you got the ability to summon certain forms of wildlife in every world that would let you go through, and you could ride them and kind of chase down the monsters. And basically it was like having a car almost, which was entirely new for the series. Well, in this game, you basically get like two pets. You get your Palico friend, but you also get like this cool dog thing. And oh my gosh, it's great because all the quality of life stuff is there, except for it's even better. So you couldn't really control the animal in World. You would get on it and it would chase the monster down. In this one, you control it basically like a car, but while you're riding on him, you can also eat, buff up, whatever. So you have like the best of both worlds. You can control him, and you can also heal yourself and kind of take it as a time of rest. But other than that, I mean, this game is just, it's fantastic. I'm really, really looking forward to it. They have some other new abilities, though, that I didn't even know about till like my third time retrying a hunt. And, boo on me for not actually going through both tutorials. And that's this wyvern riding. Now, the wyvern riding, I guess like when monsters are weak, or when I experienced it, it was two monsters were fighting each other and one got knocked down. But you have the ability to jump on them, and using your like weird kind of energy string stuff that kind of ties to that bug that I was talking about earlier, you can ride them, but kind of control them. Think like like riding like a really big Pokemon and then having him do your bidding. It was awesome. I jumped on this crazy like badger thing once. And basically used it to fight the other monster I was fighting. It is a cool addition. I mean, I'm just thinking back like, wow, what if they added this in Monster Hunter World? You know, like, obviously this was an idea they had, so, you know, potentially that could have been a thing. But I'm wondering, like, when you play this game for real and you get to the big monsters, I'm talking like extra large, Devil Joe, you know, just the huge stuff. Will you have the ability to monster, like, Wyvern ride them? You know what I mean? Like, just imagine basically sitting on top of Godzilla attacking like, you know, like a giant like King Ghidorah type thing. I mean, that's kind of what I'm thinking here. I really don't know, but there's a lot going on with this. The one thing though I will say that I did not get to do, and not because like I just wasn't trying or anything, but I never have good luck with randoms, and none of my friends were around. I did not get to try the multiplayer, and multiplayer was a big deal for me in Monster Hunter World. In fact, it was the reason why I played so much. I had a really good friend, and we would just play the heck out of it. But so in a nutshell, like I said, this is kind of like a really cool evolution of Monster Hunter World. They're kind of taking a lot of concepts, they're adding new concepts. It's on the Switch. And because of that, I will say that graphically, obviously, I mean, this kind of goes without saying, but I feel like I need to. It doesn't look as good as Monster Hunter World, but I mean, like, you know, I've been playing Monster Hunter World in like 4K on my Xbox Series X. Like, you know what I mean? It's no comparison, but it doesn't look bad. I'm not saying it looks bad. It's just that's the only downside I've come across so far, I guess. But hey, you know, this is a really great game, and I highly recommend you go check out the demo. So I hope you guys liked that gameplay. If you haven't yet, like I said, please download the demo. By the time you're watching this, I'm sure they fixed the eShop up by now. It is fantastic. If you're a Monster Hunter fan, I think you're going to have a really good time. But hey, let me know what you think. Is this a game you're looking forward to? And now that you've played the demo, if you have, you know, tell me what you think. Tell me your thoughts, because I think this is like a cool step for the handheld games. You know, the handheld games have always kind of been, to me, locked behind this weird loading screen scenario, and now I think it's just more accessible and a lot more fun to play. But, you know, like I said, let me know what you guys think in the comments down below, because I'm really interested to see what other Monster Hunter fans are saying about this. Hey, that's going to do it for us today, guys. Once again, thank you so much for watching. I know I keep kind of saying I'm going to do like a news videos like I used to do on Saturdays, but things keep coming up. This is kind of a news video. I mean, we talked about Scott Pilgrim, we talked about Monster Hunter. But hey, as always, leave a thumbs up, thumbs down if you feel like any kind of way. Subscribe if you haven't. It'd be super cool. And as always, take it easy.